Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jackson.
Top Notch Sports. Today we're going to be going over the Baltimore Ravens free agency frenzy, where we break down what we think the Baltimore Ravens are going to do this upcoming free agency / offseason period. If you have not already, we're going to put in the comment section below our link to our Baltimore Ravens salary review, which was done about 33 days ago. And that video really broke down what we think a realistic expectation is for the Baltimore Ravens this upcoming offseason. Now, without further ado, Jackson, where do you think the state of this team is real fast? What do you think they got to attack in free agency this upcoming offseason? What areas do you think this team needs to improve?
There's one thing that just, clicks right, into my mind when I hear about this Baltimore Ravens team, and that is the wide receiver position. If they can go out and attack a wide receiver in free agency, there's a lot of names out there at wide receiver. There's Allen Robinson, Corey Davis, Juju Smith-Schuster's out there. If they can go out and, make a big splash on one of those guys, it would truly, really help this offense and help Lamar Jackson throwing the football. And I'm saying this, I think this team is honestly pretty solid. If they can get a solid receiver, I think they could really be competitive and make a Super Bowl push. Because you look at the defensive side of the ball, they're all set. They got a very solid secondary. You got Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, locking down the secondary. They got a solid defensive line. So if they can go out and attack a wide receiver in free agency, it's really going to improve this offense and help Lamar Jackson throwing the football.
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to agree with you that they do need a receiver, absolutely. But I'm not going to say this defense is really done yet. You look at the defense, they're going to definitely need some secondary help in the sense of safeties, right? They're two safeties right now, Deshaun Elliott and Chuck Clark. Again, you didn't go out and maybe get someone in the draft this year. Safeties usually fall late. But why not take a play on a kid that never really panned out, that has a potential of the sky and a floor of, hey, he's going to might be a bust. I think this kid's a stud when he's on the field, and his name's Malik Hooker from the Indianapolis Colts. Look, Malik Hooker, when he's playing, he's a stud. And this team could use somebody like him. Again, look, if he's on the field, he's going to be good. If he can't stay healthy, you know what? What do you waste? $3-4 million you throw out there, see if he can improve it in 1 year, a 1 year deal, you try him out. If he stays healthy, you got to steal. If he doesn't stay healthy, what do you lose? $3-4 million on a guy that you're trying out? I think Malik Hooker could be a really good option. The sky's the limit for him when healthy. And again, this team has a decent amount of money. What do we say? $24 million I think this team has going into free agency. Another guy I would like to see them bring back is Matthew Judon. But if Judon comes back, he's going to take up about $15-16 million, which leaves the team with $8 million. Well, then you can bring in a guy like Malik Hooker, right? Let's say they don't bring in Matthew Judon. Well, then they got to address that position, and I think maybe the linebacker position too, an outside linebacker. You got Patrick Queen in the draft last year. You didn't build around him. You didn't get an outside linebacker, maybe a kid like Nick Bolton coming out of this year's draft from Missouri, right? He would be a nice fit for this team. So you got to attack that linebacker position, the safety position. You should probably maybe re-sign Matthew Judon, depending on what his price tag is. I would like to bring him back, and I think the Ravens will bring him back ultimately. Jon Harbaugh is a big fan of Matthew Judon since they brought him in a long time ago. And maybe draft a receiver, right? Maybe you go out with your first-round pick and draft a big guy like Terrace Marshall Jr., who is a big receiver, can go up and get it. He's physical. I know Mel Kiper, I'm pretty sure, had him as his latest mock pick, and that's something that we projected 33 days ago. Again, we're going to post that link in the comment section below so you guys can go and watch that. Again, the numbers are slightly off because since then, the NFL has expanded the salary cap by $10 million. So all you got to do for that video is add $10 million to your salary cap and say, who else can we add with the money that we have? And everything else will be accurate. But look, maybe they bring in someone like Terrace Marshall. Why not? Why not bring him in? It would be a really nice option there. 6'3", red zone threat. If you think about this Baltimore Ravens receiving core, they're all smaller, faster players. You bring in get it guy, a jump ball guy like Terrace Marshall Jr., I think that could be a really good option for them. Again, the defense is almost set. But what else do you think about this team? They're right there. They're right on that line of making that push to the Super Bowl.
I think they're definitely lacking, another red zone threat, like you said. They have, a lot of smaller guys, Marquise Brown, Devin Duvernay. They're all speed guys. Mark Andrews is kind of their big target in the red zone. So if they go out and get another guy like, Terrace Marshall, like you just said, big red zone threat. It's really going to help this team in the long run. And like I said, they can just any receiver that's, can make a play, be a playmaker. It's going to help Lamar Jackson, because what's Lamar Jackson really struggled with is throwing the football. So you get him a nice big target that's going to go up and make plays for him. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team, honestly. They got already got a solid offensive line. Their run game is really, really good. And J.K. Dobbins had a solid year. Lamar Jackson, we know what he does with the football in his hands. So, again, they address, maybe some positions on defense, like you said, bringing back Matthew Judon, would really, really help this team on defensive line, coming off the edge with Judon. Patrick Queen, was a great pick last year in the draft to, build around that linebacker core. So if they maybe go out and get maybe a second, third round linebacker, and like you said, this team probably needs a safety as well. Safeties, like you said, will usually fall. You can probably get a really solid safety in the third round, maybe even the fourth round, that will come in and make a play for you. So, like I said, I really like this Baltimore team. It's really going to come down to, which, at least in my opinion, is what they do with the receivers. If they can just go out and get Lamar Jackson, a guy that he can throw the football to, I mean, I really like this Baltimore team next year.
Yes. And another thing I got to mention, or else I would be kicking myself after the video, is the whole situation with Orlando Brown. I mean, that's something that we can't ignore in this video. Orlando Brown's not happy. He's a left tackle. He says he is a left tackle. He was a Pro Bowler at the left tackle after Ronnie Stanley got hurt. The question is now, what's going to happen with him? Do they go out and trade him? Do they go out and get somebody new? Look, I don't think that you honestly, and this might sound absolutely ridiculous. You know me. How many times have I argued about needing an offensive line? But the thing is this. Lamar Jackson does not need, I mean, he does need a good offensive line, don't get me wrong, but you don't need Ronnie Stanley and Orlando Brown. If Orlando Brown wants to walk, you can get really good trade value for this kid if you move on from him. I mean, really good trade value. Orlando Brown's an absolute monster. He's a stud. And it's unfortunate that he doesn't want to stay there and be paid as a right tackle. I mean, he's still going to get top paid money. Now the question is this. Do you decide to go and trade him? If you do decide to go and trade him, you can try to get a right tackle in return in this year's draft at some point, okay? And it doesn't need to be a top-of-the-line guy. It can be someone in the second, third round. This is a deep offensive tackle draft, and they can definitely get a kid that's going to be a starter from day one. But now the question is, you don't need like that guy. Because the thing is that Lamar Jackson is so mobile, okay? He's not just a non-movable target who just stands in the pocket and the tackle's got to block their asses off, right? Lamar Jackson can go to work in the backfield. So, do you need a right tackle? Yes, but do you need a top-of-the-line right tackle like Orlando Brown and Ryan? No, you really don't. If you move on from Orlando Brown, it sucks. He's great. He's a young piece that you can have for years to come. But if he doesn't want to be there and he wants all this money, trade him, get some good draft capital in return, get a right tackle to replace him that's going to be good enough, and then use whatever the hell else you get on other positions to help your team. This team is not just there yet. They need something. Because if you honestly think about it, what have they improved on from last year to this year? Nothing. They're losing a few pieces, right? They're going to lose a few pieces this year. And that's just a sad reality, is that this team wasn't, and it is honest, they weren't able to get it done last year. This year, they're losing potentially Matthew Judon. They're losing potentially Yannick Ngakoue, Willie Snead, Derek Wolfe, Matt Skura, the center/guard, Tyus Bowser, Pernell McPhee, DJ Fluker, right? All these guys. And I can go on, and they're losing a bunch of pieces. So what's going to get this team better? Well, a good free agency. Maybe they just don't go out and re-sign somebody. Maybe they go out and make a big splash. Maybe they bring back Matthew Judon and maybe get a good wide receiver like we mentioned. Maybe one of those top-name guys. If not a top-name guy, maybe they get somebody in the draft in the first round. Or they go and draft a Nick Bolton in the first round, right? There's a lot of options for this team. Then you say, you know what? We're going to trade Orlando Brown to this team for a first-round pick on top of maybe a third, maybe get a first and third for Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown's that good, ladies and gentlemen. He's not bad. This kid is a all-pro, Pro Bowl right/left tackle. He can play both. That's amazing. You can get probably a first and a third. Well, know what you do with that first? Maybe you get a receiver and a linebacker in this year's draft, and then you say, you know what we're going to do on top of that? In the third round, we're going to draft our safety for the next few years. Safeties, guys, this year's draft, there's a bunch of them. Trayvon Moehrig, Javon Holland, Andre Sisco, Hamza Nasirladeen. There's a bunch of guys. Caden Stearns or Darius Washington, Bubba Bolden. Richie Gray, who's been flying up draft boards. Again, I got to do a lot more scouting before I make a big mention here and tell you who I think you guys are going to draft. But there's a lot of options for this Baltimore Ravens team to go, and I'm excited to see what they can do. But again, moving on from Orlando Brown, maybe grabbing a right tackle in the second round, because there's going to be a lot of them in this year's draft. It's a very deep offensive tackle draft. Going out, getting a receiver, getting Matthew Judon back, getting a linebacker. This team's in a better situation than they were a year ago, and I would be foolish not to mention your stud running back in J.K. Dobbins, who I think is an absolute monster, and I think that should have had he should get all the carries next year. I love this kid. I love Gus Edwards too, but between those two, I think you got a really bright future in the running back room. You got Lamar Jackson, you got Mark Andrews, you got the receivers, Marquise Brown and Devin Duvernay. Look, this team is interesting. Really good offensive line, solid defensive line, very good corners. Anyone would die for those corners. And you draft a safety, you get a linebacker. This team is ready to make a push for the Super Bowl. I'm excited to see what they can do. Anything else?
I do want to mention one name, and that's Willie Snead that they're losing. If they don't make a big splash on a wide receiver, I definitely see him getting brought back to this Baltimore team alongside them drafting a receiver like a guy like Terrace Marshall, like you said. I think Willie Snead actually is a pretty solid guy. He's done pretty good things for his Baltimore teams this last couple years. So I think that would be a solid option for them to bring back. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's about all, guys. Listen, we're going to do our scouting analysis after this free agency frenzy series. So we got to get done with all 32 teams first. But once we're done, we're going to hop into our scouting analysis. After our scouting analysis, we got our mock drafts. And after our mock drafts, we got our live draft show. So we want you guys to be tuned for all that. And then after the mock draft, we do our draft grades, coaching grades, and then we go back to debating. Guys, be sure to stay tuned. Leave a like, subscribe, watch the salary review video. Let us know what you think about this video in the comment section below. Let us know what moves you guys think you guys are going to make. I'm excited. Let's see what this Baltimore Ravens team does. Look, I would really love to see Patrick Queen in the middle. You get someone like Nick Bolton in the late first, and you get Terrace Marshall in the first two because you trade Orlando Brown, and then you draft offensive tackle in the second round. There's a lot of options. There's really a lot of options, and you don't need that top guy to protect the pocket pass because of Lamar Jackson. Guys, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon. Jackson, we are
Built better.
See you guys soon. Peace.